Hi all, there was a very interesting game in the FIDE Grand Prix played in round 5. Sergey Karjakin, who's the number 2 Russian in the world, Super GM, rank 8 in the world, 2767. He was playing white against Baadur Jobava, not a bad player himself, 2717. Let's see what happened in this game. E4 from Sergey. Baadur Jobava plays the Kh1 C6. We see now knight f3, d5. Now knight c3. This has been played over 3,000 games in my book, quite popular. So not committing the d pawn just yet. Black now took on e4. Knight takes e4. Knight f6. So there's an invitation to double the pawns here with knight takes f6. And if you believe Wiki, it says e takes is a little bit more reliable than g takes. I think this is the Larsen variation. It's been played a lot by Larsen. G takes. This has been played. Larsen, Bronstein. I think they've both played either e takes or g takes properly. Actually, it's a very interesting position. So black's accepting the doubled pawns here. There's only one shared e file in the position. White now plays bishop c4. Theoretically, yeah, I think the top move is actually d4 first, but bishop c4. Now here we see this curious check, queen e7 check. Usually players with black actually play bishop d6. So maybe that's exploiting the move order actually, because against d4 the check here doesn't seem much point. You know, we play bishop e2 in one go. We're not retreating a bishop or anything. So maybe black's trying to exploit the move order just slightly with this pesky check. And white actually took time to retreat that bishop, but hasn't black blocked in his dark square bishop. Well, actually now he plays queen c7 rather cheekily, so he's going to get a nice battery on h2 later if white castles kingside. So d4, bishop d6. So black has that nice battery now, and both sides castle. And here black might be threatening one day something to do with h2, maybe later bishop g4, maybe c5, putting pressure on the center. White plays h3, which might not be strictly necessary, but it seems fairly sensible to deprive black of certain possibilities. It is slightly weakening the dark squares. Another slight issue is this asking for a bishop sacrifice later. Crudely, if black could sacrifice a piece against that h3, then you wouldn't have just dark square weaknesses, you'd have light square weaknesses as well. Yeah, so to keep more solid, in theory, white could actually, it seems, play c4, say here, then h3 maybe, or even c5. I mean, these are plausible ideas, because there's c takes there, so as a zug, as weak zug. So this position without h3 seems plausible. At least wait for the bishop to come to g4, but no big deal it would seem to play h3. So the game continues. Rook d8, bishop e3. Now we see knight d7. So black's getting on with development. He's got these guys to try and get out of the box soon. So c4, knight f8. Not minding c5. Black would always get that d5 square, it would seem, if c5 is played. There's bishop f4 maybe. In fact, nope. With the rook here, in fact, that's not even possible. Bishop takes c5. So this is perfectly okay for black, this position. So knight f8, bishop d3, and now we see knight g6. So black looks very comfortable actually on these dark squares. Queen c2, so white's got that battery as well. And then we see bishop e6. Okay, so this double pawn complex is actually quite useful for controlling e5. Now black with bishop e6 can look at that h3 pawn and batterize that bishop with queen d7 or c8 to probably take on h3. Now, is this really super crude? I mean, the opponent is rank 8 in the world. Can you really play like this? Is it really possible to play like this. It is actually one of the top engine suggestions, either to play like this, to Queen D7 or Queen C8, believe it or not. Because how easy is it for white to deal with bishop takes H3 here if white wanted to stop it or reduce its damage? If white panicked here, I mean, Sergey played bishop D2 here, but if white, say, played this move, it wouldn't help. It would totally invite it, because it's like this. Then we're taking on F3 as a simple example. So white clearly has to be careful. He doesn't want to play H4. Clearly, it's not the sort of move you want to do. And in fact, in this position, apparently Bishop H3 might actually be on the cards here with Queen G4. This is dangerous, this position. But in the game, yeah, we see now Bishop D2. So is it worth the bishop sack? Well, actually, with the pieces seem away from the king, funny enough. It's an odd-looking position, with both bishops essentially pointing at white's king, mysteriously, from the Karjakin. You wouldn't think you'd get such an aggressive position with the bishops pointing at the king. And the sacrifice is played. Bishop takes H3. It seems to be asking for it. Because it doesn't seem to be a clear kind of way to refute it, because immediately the knight will be loose on F3. So white can't get immediate time for bishop F1. So let's have a look here. White took this. I don't think there's much better in delaying it, although white could insert bishop takes G6. But let's have a look. G takes, queen takes. We're hitting the knight. So there's no time for bishop F1. We just take the knight. The knight's holding up H2, so we just take that. So what does white do here? Well, it's actually an incredibly difficult position to play. It seems there's only one move to have equality here with white, believe it or not. And if that's the case, how is this that the rank 8 in the world has allowed a seemingly simple bishop sacrifice, and he's struggling to have equality? It makes me feel a little bit better about my club games, I'll tell you that. Why is white in such a difficult position? Has the opening been some sort of disaster here? When I said there was no big deal about 10 H3, playing H3 on move 10, maybe it was a big deal. A slight weakening of squares around the king. Can it be really fatal? I mean, what does white play here? If bishop E4, this is an engine suggestion. There's knight H4. What does white do now? Say he protects this. Queen G2, checkmate. That doesn't help. Say he takes here. Bishop H2 check. Bishop G3. And we have this classic mating pattern. Because this doesn't help that the queen's not even protecting F2 in this position. So bishop E4, knight here, it seems actually like +2 nearly from an engine point of view. The only move apparently here for white to achieve +2 to black is this move, otherwise it's a total disaster. Yeah, this is just gone. So bishop E4, I mean, this is just crazy. Knight E5, it doesn't help white at all. We just take this here. The idea is queen C3, and black's just clearly better in this position. F5 or knight G6, black's just clearly better. He's up pawns. He's up a pawn or two. Okay, so that's just ridiculous. That bishop E4 doesn't help. Bishop F5 doesn't help. I think we just take on F3. Something like this move in this position doesn't help actually. The strongest would be bishop H2 check, and then we can play this. King moves, and here rook takes D4, and you see actually there's this vacuum of squares around the king with things like rook takes D2, rook H4 check, building up the rooks, and this nasty pin against the queen. What does white do in this position? It seems impossible to play. Totally impossible to play this position. What does white actually do? Say this, then just taking here. It's very, very unpleasant. There's just no move. I mean, it's just extremely beyond pain threshold here. Bishop C3. we throw in the check first here, then we take here and the queen's actually loose in this variation. Ouch. Yeah, ridiculous. It's a ridiculous scenario, and it seems Sergey played the only move to stay in the game. Actually, they all seem to fail, all the moves. Bishop takes g6. So after h takes g6, it seems black is immediately, well, he's on the knight here, so that's protected. It seems totally logical now. So what white's done, he's protecting that knight. There's no knight h4, evil knight h4, but the evaluation is just equal here for my stockfish, totally equal. Black now played g5, and actually he's still trying to dislodge this knight with g4 to get access to h2. It's an unpleasant position, it seems. White played now another good move, it seems, c4, and here, I mean, this provides some extra resources in the position, like queen b3, looking at b7. So if the bishop went here, possibly, you know, white plays this, and it seems as though this might actually be playable, because g4 is knight e5, looking at the queen. This position, now white might have some tricks here, almost, like knight takes f7, but apparently knight c4 is the best here. But still, this position here after g3 is still dangerous, and apparently equal. This position apparently is equal. Remarkable that black can have a lot of fun in this position after sacrificing the bishop, even if white plays really accurately. It's just a very, very difficult position to play. All sorts of moves apparently are okay for black even here. So let's go back. So after c5, actually bishop f4 was played, keeping the pressure up with a forcing move to win the exchange and take the knight after. So white plays rook b3. Now black's actually better. Technically, we see actually the move, another really seemingly strange, clever move, bishop c7. What on earth is this about? Well, one thing, let's have a look at, well, if rook takes b7, I don't think we want to do this. The reason we don't want to do this is, well, also, I mean, queen takes f3, this rook is not brilliant there after rook takes d4. That's a simple demonstration that this doesn't help white for the rook to come in like that. So Sergey played queen c4, and it introduces the idea of defending with queen f1, which looks like a Marshall Gambit type resource. You'd use the f1 square to defend against the light square attack sometimes. So that seems to be a defensive kind of threat. It's also looking at f7, that might be useful in the future. We see now black playing queen h5. Apparently queen g4 check might be just keeping a technical advantage for black. This position here is difficult, very difficult. Black is potentially going to play rook e4 to give the opportunity of doubling and stuff, or switching the rook to g4 later. So after queen c4, anyway, queen g4 wasn't played, queen h5, and there might have been an opportunity here, it seems, for white to play rook takes b7, because look at that f7. Maybe this could come handy at some point as well, tying down the queen with the rook on the 7th. Black can still play like the check here and something like rook d7, and it's still really, really dangerous. So we're on the thing here. Apparently this might be just about holding for white, just about, but it's difficult to play. So anyway, after queen h5, actually king g2 was played, not rook takes b7, king g2. Clearly the intention to bring the other rook to h1 to drive this queen away and enjoy being a piece up. So that's now clear threat. Black extinguishes that with queen g4 check, so the rook is still kept prisoner there on a1. King drops back, and now we see rook e8, and black is now threatening this rook e4 with the idea of say a check here, and then switching the rook potentially to g4. So white parries that major thing, rook e4, with rook e1. We see check, king g1, and now black doesn't mind the exchange of rooks. He plays rook takes e1. If knight takes e1, we're back to a mate in 4 after check. Check, we've got the classic mate in 4, you know, on f2 there. So basically, rook takes e1. Sorry, after rook takes e1, bishop takes e1 is forced. Now black played check and brought the other rook in. So again, he might be threatening. Well, there's new threats in the position now that have emerged. Actually, there's actually a threat of a mate in 6. I just want to demonstrate that here. White actually played knight g1, but let's see the mate in 6 threat. Let's try and demonstrate it with, say white played at a4, then check here, rook takes e1 check, and we've got that familiar pattern again. It's just been elaborated a little bit more from the rook takes e1. So yes, that's what black is now threatening again. It's really a nuisance to have this queen near the king. So we have knight g1. This might not be, well, there doesn't seem to be much white can do here. He kind of paralysed. If he plays rook e3, then we just snap off the rook and then take on f3 after. So yeah, knight g1. And now black plays bishop h2. It's torture on e1, g1, f3 as torture points for white's king. It's apparently the best move to try is knight h3. It doesn't seem inspiring to have to play knight h3 particularly. And here, queen e4 is still better for black, still with threats, but apparently this position might have been just +1 for black. So with absolute best play, g3 it starts to get dangerous, but apparently this position is almost not a total disaster, but it's better for black still. He's getting his piece back. But yeah, in the game, after bishop h2, we don't see this peculiar knight h3 engine move. We see actually knight e2. So after knight e2, there's a slight snag here with knight e2. Can you spot it? What does black play if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video here, starting from now? Okay, rook takes e2. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, this queen g1 is made more effective if the e2 entrance is closed up. So after queen takes e2, queen g1 will be checkmate. Yes, very, very unfortunate. Sergey plays one more move. Rook takes b7 here. If he plays f3, we've got queen g2 checkmate. Yeah, so rook takes b7, and now black, yeah, is faced with a mate in 2 himself actually, and he just elegantly just protects that now with rook e6. So still now with queen g1 threatens, queen h3, these are mates in 1. And here, so that was the last try of Sergey, cheeky, but he resigned. So this sort of game humbles me that, you know, even the top grandmasters in the world, it seems king safety, even for the best of us, is a tricky issue, to say the least. A move like h3, it's I don't think, yeah, it's actually 5 times in livebook, but the engines are crying for other stuff. Stockfish is not mentioning h3, even though in livebook there's been 5 games with it. It seems this is a very, very direct approach that black played in this game. So I could say obscenely direct, just lining up to sacrifice on h3. Who would have thought that chess could be so made to look so incredibly easy in some respects? But it's the follow-up. It's all pretty accurate follow-ups, like allowing this stuff on b7, calculating all of this. So a very, very impressive game. So in the game, yeah, let's just look at the game again. Wow. So that's e-file and the continual pressure from these three attacking pieces. White's last throw of the dice, rook e6. Wow, a fascinating game. Hope you got something from that. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.